All right, in this timer bar example, lab, you're going to learn how to use an object that just kind of holds some space to contain our behaviors to create a timer bar. And the timer bar can be used in a variety of ways. You can make it be a fuel bar, a fuel display, a time display, just as a really good visual way of displaying how much time is left in a level that you're working on. So to get this done, let's talk about the different kinds of behaviors we'll be using and how they work together to create a final time that gets displayed visually. So to begin with, let's go to our My Game screen in Flowlab in our account. Click on New Game. And let's wait for a second while this opens up. It always takes a second. Empty Project is always the best place to go. And we don't really concern about any of the displays in this piece at all. We're just going to name this Timer Bar Lab like this. We're not worried about any of the prints. And our only goal with this is to create the timer bar. We don't care about graphics or appearances or games. And we eventually want to do this once so we can use it again and again. So let's go ahead and make an object that will contain this. It'll be off the screen. We're not going to see it during the game, although you could make it a visual part of the game. So I'm going to make this say C for clock. So let's use this pen tool. And I always like to have objects look like a letter or something that indicates what they are. So C for clock. And I guess, we could do whatever we want to make that look better, but there it is. Now I've got C for clock. Next we're going to open up behaviors. And let's just click on some behaviors and explain what they are as we go through this. So I want to explain, we're going to use a once and an always. And once happens at the beginning when it gets loaded and always happens constantly thereafter. We're going to use a clock. And, oops, that's not a clock. Let's get a clock. So the logic and math, components. At the bottom of components, slide down here and there's clock. And we're going to get 2 of those. Now the clock, based on what it tells us in the help panel, click on help, tells us that we can output an hour, a minute, a second, or a stamp. Now the thing we want to use here is a stamp. The other things are good if you want to actually find out the clock time, but we only care about time in seconds. So what this does, the stamp gives us the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. It's a big number. It's a lot of seconds. And our main goal with that is to use the difference between the current time and the start time to give us how much time has elapsed. So other elements we're going to use. Let's talk about the logic and math section. We're going to use some numbers. Now the numbers allow us to label the object, which is a really good idea, give it a value, or we can use the set or the get or the plus to plug it in to get the value. So we're going to use actually 3 or 4 of these. Let's just choose 3 for now. And put one up here, and one here, and one here. Okay, so when we output through this, we're going to use the set to determine the value, but to pass that through, we must also use the get to make that work. Let's talk about the other things we're going to use. We're going to use at least one expression, and the expression allows us to add as many inputs as we want, up to 8, and we're going to use 3. 3 inputs, and so I'm going to use this to determine find time left. And it's going to take us a couple of experiments to get it working. And our goal is to build it one piece at a time so it makes sense. All right, so we're going to use that. We're also going to use a filter somewhere in here. And a filter is simply something that does an inequality statement or an equality statement. So it's less than or greater than, equal to, not equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, by using number inputs. And that's going to allow us to determine when the level is over. And finally, we are going to use a GUI object called the bar. Now, if we just close this and say OK, you'll see the bar right there on the screen. So let's just put it in the middle. You can move it around. And let's go back to our behaviors. So to connect all these, we're just going to do some experimenting right here. So by clicking the clock to the get, from the once to the get, to the stamp to the set. The once to the clock to the stamp to the get. So we say OK, and it gives us a number here. It's a positive number. It's a very big number. It's the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. It doesn't change. So we determine this once at a point in time, and we're going to use this to compare against the number that will show up later through our always. So always to the get, to the stamp, to the set. So now you're going to see this number change. All right, so it's putting out a lot of digits there, but it's essentially counting in seconds. And notice the difference between these two is what's going to give us the resulting change. Now, oops, I need to close that, sorry. So this number here is going to be the start time. So we can label this. And it started out as a number, but you can label it like it's a variable. Okay, so if I was doing this in code, I would definitely write this as a variable name. This is current time. All right, and they're both set to 0 at the beginning because the input to the set is going to be what makes that work. Now, let's also make a number that is the level time or the duration. There's a few things you can name that. Okay, and we're going to set this as a number. So let's just right now call this 10 or 15 or 20, but this is just going to basically how many seconds we're going to count down from. Now to instantiate that or pump that out to the idea, we're going to have to send the get to the out, but for now let's just do the math on these other pieces. So once we get the once on the current time, we're going to send that to the expression, and the expression allows us to do math of different kinds. If you click on the help, it'll show you the different kinds of math you can use and how to write it, what symbols to use, including trigonometric functions. So if you want to do something complex that determines the reflection angle of something, bouncing a ball off of something else, you could do that. For now, we're going to worry about simple math, addition, subtraction, grouping, and multiplication and division. So popping back in here, we're going to send the value from start to the B and the value from always to the C. So just keeping in order is going to help us get the job done. Now watch this. If we pump this through there, it's not sending the value all the way through here. It's going to here and it's stopping. And the reason it's stopping is because in order to send the value through to the out, you must be connected to either the get or the plus. If you connect it to the plus, it's going to add to the number there, which we don't want in this case. So we're going to use the stamp on both of these to go to the get right there. So if we play that, you can see it's going all the way through. This one's not going through because it went through once to here, and so the number's in here. Now there's no value actually happening here because we have not determined as yet the mathematical operation to be used. Now we're going to need a number to drop in here. So let's just call this time left. And okay, so we're going to send out to the set here. And the value that we're going to do is we're going to subtract the start time from the current time. So it's C minus B. Now we still haven't used the A yet. All right, so let's just test that math. Okay, now I can see it's not working. The reason it's not working is because the eval is not set up. So I need to connect something to the eval, and that's something that's going to happen constantly. So you could connect it from here to there, and if you find that that's too unwieldy or whatever, you can just do an always here and connect it directly. They're the same always, right? Now is now. So now we run it, and we can see we're counting up. So this is not the time left. This is the time elapsed. So to get the time left, we need to subtract this value from the total duration. So what we got to do is pump the duration into the A and change the math on this. Let's move this over so we can see better. We're going to change the math on this to quantity, that's a parenthesis, A minus another quantity, C minus B, and I got two parentheses. So that's how it looks here. And we're going to click OK. And so let's see how that did. So now we should be getting a number that counts negative. So as I watch this, I'm flabbergasted because I shouldn't be getting a negative number, and I can see why it happened. Because duration, which should go out to here, is not being sent through the getter. All right, so as we go through, we're sort of troubleshooting, going, why isn't it going through? So we connect this, and now that number is going to go through, and you'll see it when I click on the play. These two are going to string once, just like that, and now we're getting a countdown. Now there's two ways you can display this. For today, we're simply going to use a bar output, and you do have to set the values of the bar. So if I do this and I say, okay, let's set a value for this, the max value should be the same as the duration. So I'm going to say 10 there, and my current value is going to also be 10. So if I run it, now you can see it's not working, right? Why is it not working? Well, the reason it's not working is because the set only sets the value. It doesn't send the value out to the out. So you have to use the get. So as I pump this out, I also have to use the get. The get is what's going to send the value in there out to the other piece. And now you can see it reducing. So once you've done this once and you've got it working for 10 seconds, you're good to go. But you can always take this and change its values. Now let's talk about how to never have to do this again. All right. So if you found that to be a pain in the neck, which is not too bad, we can use the filter later. We're not going to use that right now. The filter later would be used to determine when the time is counted down and what to do when the time is over. So what I want to do with this is if I get this tool right here, the selection tool, see it's selected now, and if I use this to click and drag to make a box selection, over here in this wheel menu is bundle. So I've bundled this, and I'm going to name this timer bar. And if I click add to menu, we're going to see it show over in in my behavior bundles. So here's timer bar. So I've actually got two of them because I made this before. And that means that anytime you want to use a timer bar in any game within your account, you can just click on here to add it into the game you're using. So you've done it once, you never have to do it again. But you will probably have to get it, okay, if you want to change the level durations or, anything else about how this works or how it outputs. It's essentially built, but you may need to make some small changes to the values it works with. So now you've done it once. Hopefully you never have to do it again. Great job. We'll see you in class.